From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Bryan Cranston. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects. And now, earlier today, he put the staff through mandatory racism training. But he felt like they were racist enough. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on the mandate. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for sharing. Right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Bryan. Hi, guys. Well, speaking of Bryans with a Y.
Yeah, the best.
Cranston's going to be on the second half of the show today, so we look forward to that.
In case you're wondering if I'm a fan, not too much. Not really.
Oh, we're looking at all the Breaking Bad bobbleheads.
Yeah. I mean, I could take them or leave them. I've only watched the whole series 8 times.
Sonny's a fanatic, too. Sonny insisted on coming in the studio or coming in to work with me today, something he normally dreads when he found out Cranston was part of it. I will warn this. I will warn all people of this. And, Sonny, if you're listening, that's fine.
He's not.
I've found that there's a lot of people in my life that are sort of checked out in general to many of the things I do. But then every once in a while they go, why didn't you tell me that Bryan Cranston was coming? Because you're on my list of people I don't tell things to because you're sort of generally, you're checked out. So
you got to be on the mailing list.
You got to be on the mailing
Scribe.
list. Yeah. One of the most heartbreaking conversations I ever had with my mom once is she said to me, how come you didn't tell me about X, Y, and Z? And I went, you're not on my list of people I tell things to. Like, I don't think of telling you stuff. I think of telling Jimmy or somebody else this stuff.
And by the way, before you give me any shit, you put yourself on that list.
That's right, Sonny. You put yourself on that list, but he's only got one foot on that list. There's other people who are the mayor of that list, but I was on my rowing machine last night, and he came down at 10 o'clock at night, went, Cranston's coming in tomorrow? And I was like, yep. And he's like, what? Now he's all up in daddy's business. So
I believe he's donating plasma as well for COVID antibodies.
Sonny, what a nice kid.
What a heart.
What a responsible little boy.
Yeah, Cranston is doing that. And I think he may even be better than we thought, which is he evidently had COVID, kept it on the down low.
Your shop, shook a bunch of hands. Him and I wrestled nude for a little while, and then he went back home. And then he went to UCLA to give blood so they could get the platelets. And I think he was going to do the whole thing kind of anonymously or privately. And then somebody at UCLA said to him, hey, if you could get the word out, we could get more platelets in here if a guy like you would talk about it. That's
true. So he admitted he had AIDS. And now everyone was super confused. The end. So he got the word out.
Save some lives on the way.
That's right. I wasn't going to get out of the gate with Ernest Lee Bigot, but we had Mike Lynch's intro that Dawson gave us. It kind of reminded me of an Ernest Lee Bigot, which I slipped into the other day when I was talking to somebody. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I've experienced, and I've traveled around a lot, I've experienced a higher percentage of black folk wearing a mask than white folk. That has been my experience.
I haven't noticed that here.
Well, I've traveled. I think you have to travel around a little. Yeah. We know that the anti-maskers are exclusively white. I mean that much we know. Every piece of footage we've seen from any Costco of someone wrestling with somebody or yelling at somebody, they'll never see a black person without the mask.
There's Herman Cain, although do we still count him?
Oh, Bryan.
Well, his Twitter account's still active. Fucking got tweeted this morning.
It's right.
I got that in my favorite tweets. I was going to serve that up
ghoulish.
to you. I saw that and I thought of you. All right. Now, the discussion was, let me get into my Ernest Lee Bigot, which is black people are wearing a mask, it appears to be at a higher or more consistent rate than white people. And I suggested to the person I was talking to, well, if 93% of black people are Democrat and Democrats are more apt to wear the mask than a Republican, and Whitey's kind of split down the middle, Republican, Democrat, well, then that would make some sense to me, right?
Sure. That's a correlation there for sure.
And then the person I was speaking to said, but I have noticed that many of them have the mask down under the nose. And then Ernest Lee Bigot said, well, maybe it's because they're used to wearing their pants that way. I'm just asking. He's just asking.
He's not making a declarative statement. He's simply asking the question.
He's pontificating.
Ernest Lee Bigot is just asking. If the folks are wearing their pants down low, then wouldn't it make sense that everything slid down a rung? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's worth studying. I can't
When you
say,
put it like that, Ernest.
Maybe your shirt's unbuttoned, one extra button. Maybe the drawers, the pants slide down one. Maybe everything slides down. Maybe if the ball cap comes down a little lower. You know what I'm saying? Maybe everything just drops down.
A notch.
It's an important observation.
The pants may create. Look, I'm just asking, but I'm just saying and asking. The pants create like a vacuum that actually pulls the mask down as the pants drop down.
Everything slides down.
Gravitational thing. It's a orbit thing.
That's what I'm saying. This is pure gravity. Ernest is just asking. That's all.
Hey, Ernest, speaking of that really, really relevant and poignant observation, did you hear that in Compton, what the fines are going to be for no masks?
They have fines in Compton?
Oh, we did the story last night. So apparently, the first time's a warning.
Hold on. You're Jewish. Are you not?
I'm a Jewish.
How do you, of all people, know what's going on in Compton?
Oh, because I control the news, because I work for the news organization.
You mean
Does it all snap back into focus?
Your dad controls the news. You're a little lady.
Well, she'll inherit the news, Mr. Ben.
Well, she's got to have an older brother.
Well,
we can't let the Jewesses run everything. The Jews run everything. You understand?
That's true.
Jewesses. They're
worse.
Yeah, they're just there to polish the dill pickle of their of the Jews that run everything. When I say Jews control the media, I'm not talking about Jewesses.
I didn't realize that.
No, the Jew is shrewd.
So this
Thank you for reminding me of my
going on in
place.
Compton?
Yeah, really important.
So you heard from a Jewish fella.
I heard from a Jewish boss, which I guess you can just say.
That's right.
Yeah,
Jewish
controller.
boss.
Right.
Yeah. That they're joining the list of cities giving fines to people who aren't wearing covering. So first time's free. First time the warning. Second violation in Compton for being caught without your mask, $500.
Ooh.
Third violation, $750. Fourth, $1,000. $1,000.
Listen, I don't know if folks know a lot about L.A. and the L.A. area, but we used to confiscate cars. Like if we pulled over a guy and he didn't have documentation or proper driver's license or any proof that he owned the car, we used to take the car and impound him. We don't anymore because everyone would just kind of leave them. Good luck getting the good folks of Compton to write that cashier's check to the city of Compton for $500. I bet you could hand those things out all day long. I think there'd just be. I think we're living in a world where people would mail away that check to the city of Compton anymore. Could they?
Yeah, I guess, but it's I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out because Garcetti, who's our mayor, is very, people call him yoga pants and, Mr., sort of.
Do people call him yoga pants?
Yes.
Well, John and Ken do, yeah.
Okay.
Mayor yoga pants.
Oh.
Just very I'm everybody's best friend. I'm a squishy teddy bear. And then it's we want everyone to wear the mask, but now it's kind of thin ice because you're dealing with people who may be struggling right now. You're dealing with people of color who may be struggling, and you're going to give them a $500. I couldn't afford a $500 fine right now.
I know Garcetti, and I know everything in this land is optics. It's all optics. As I was explaining to my son on one of our many walks when we're getting pelted by leaf blowers. And he said, they should make those illegal. And I said, they are illegal. They've been illegal for 20 years in L.A. And he's like, well, why do they never enforce them? Because poor brown people are the ones that are operating them. And no one likes the optics of coming down on the poor brown man. So the optics of this sound bad from yoga pants. So I'm guessing it feels to me like probably someone who has a little more pigment in their skin from Compton, who's a city whatever, is the one that's imposing this, or at least suggesting it.
You would have to imagine.
You don't. This ain't the world. I can't picture him. No. I can't picture Garcetti waltzing into Compton and going, "Here's the rules, brother."
No.
And by the way, if you want to go to Encino, no problemo. But here, this is what you guys do. I can't see that. I'll bet
There's probably logic in that.
Yeah, there's gonna be like some Maxine Waters version of Compton person, city council person provided this or floated this weather balloon. That's my prediction. If I know LA,
that makes. They do say that cases in Compton specifically are growing exponentially. So maybe they're just couching it as, "Hey, this is how much we care." You know, we parents.
Your community
it hurts me a lot more than it hurts you.
Yeah, which I'm all fine with. It's just everything now is optics, and I just can't imagine Garcetti implementing that. Did you find anything, Max Zapata? All right, so let's see. We have. See what I wrote down here. I have a theory. I was doing an interview with a Navy SEAL named Cade earlier in the day.
That's a Navy SEAL name.
Yeah, it'll be on Take a Knee coming up, and I started discussing this mechanical world and this emotional world, but also the input of accepting information. And so I'm going to lay out a theory, and then you guys tell me what you think, which is the process of ingesting information. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Before you go any further, I just did. I wouldn't say a deep dive in any way. I clicked on another link. How do you do it? How do you do it? Apparently, this is there was a quote saying, we really care about this community. This is how it has to be, says city attorney
Geraldine Blackman.
Craig Cornwall. And I
what?
thought, let's look up city manager Craig Cornwall.
Oh, he is a brother and a half. All right, now it's all back.
Or you were saying?
Well, I'll circle back to pat myself on the ass cheek, and then we'll get on with this idea I want to float in front of you, which is I'm telling you people, you will know everything by knowing nothing. You study patterns. You don't study information, study patterns. So Gina Grad is a seasoned news veteran who does the news on KFI and knows the news. So when she comes in and goes, "Hey, did you hear this story I reported last night? Garcetti is going to impose fines in Compton." I think to myself, you have all the information. Mm-hmm. I have no information, but I own all the patents to the patterns.
Wow.
I own the pattern office, not the patent office, the pattern office. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And I think to myself, now, first off, who am I to say you're incorrect with your news story? You're the one who I never heard of this until you opened your mouth, right? And you've already reported it. So I'm like thinking, you have all the information, but then you have to think what trumps information in today's era is patterns. Patterns trump information now. Sadly, we used to just work off of information. Now you have to factor in the pattern and the information. And Garcetti is not only the whitest guy in Los Angeles, but he's also very conscious of how he comes across to groups and never stops talking about people of color and the disenfranchised and the communities that can't afford whatever. It's a nonstop talking point for him. And the idea that this guy would put his name on, Garcetti says $500 fine for the black folk who live in Compton who won't wear a mask or don't wear a mask sounds almost impossible to me.
Yeah.
Even though he's the mayor and Compton's, in Los Angeles, and kind of makes sense. And even you reported it. So then you go into this next strata, which is dig around and see who imposed it. And then the guy's name is Craig Dubonnet or whatever his name.
Cornwall.
Yeah, his name is Craig Cornwall, which really sounds like, what's the white guy's name in the PSA, Brian?
Oh,
Graham Wellington. What?
Yes, hello. My name is Graham Wellington.
Yeah, Craig Cornwall sounds like his cousin, right?
Right.
Like they go to Martha's Vineyard every summer. So now you go, the guy's name is Craig Cornwall. And I'm like, huh? But he still has to be black in my world, because that can't just be some red-haired guy who's in Compton who's decreeing that all his black subjects wear a mask. And then you show a picture of the guy, and he's a brother. And now we're back to where we were.
We're aligned.
Right.
And
we're aligned.
I do, just for anyone who's going to at me and tweet me, please don't bother, because when we think of the city of LA, we think of, especially when we live here, we think of every neighborhood that we can drive to. And I looked it up, and I think Aja Brown is the mayor of Compton, not Mayor Garcetti. I'm sorry, but we think he is the face of all of Los Angeles, Mayor Garcetti.
Right. But again, keep yourself tuned. And when you keep yourself tuned and Gina Grad goes, Garcetti says you got to wear a mask in Compton, you're like, all right, I'm tuned. Something's wrong with that story.
Something's amiss.
And once you're tuned, then you'll have a really high batting average of what is happening. And it doesn't ever mean you should go, liar. What it means is you go, okay, noted. Let me investigate this a little bit. And now we have our answer. Okay.
Cornwall.
So the avenue for information, and what I was talking to Navy SEAL Kate about was, why are so many people reluctant, resistant, or whatever to these words of advice, these avenues for achieving something, for, here's what you should do, and here's what you're doing too much of this and not enough of that, or whatever. And I thought to myself, I wonder if it starts off, those avenues, the highway to the information that is penetrating you, hopefully as an adult. I wonder if that highway is built in a real, tangible, physical, instructional kind of way as a young person. Like you're a young person and you hunt, and your dad's telling you how to hold the rifle and how to gut the elk and how to do it and how to do that. It's a whole bunch of rules. Or you play Pop Warner football, or later on you become a carpenter or something. And there's all this kind of mechanical, tangible highway of information, And so if you're going to work in a trade, or you're going to work in a mill, or you're working heavy equipment or something like that, then there's a constant kind of, here's the information and here's what you have to learn. As we get away from that part of life, as we get away from the kind of tangible, mechanical, the dad's going to go up on the roof with the son and explain to him how to patch the roof or how to start the car.
Yeah, whether it's hunting, the aforementioned hunting, or Little League, or whatever it is, like there's a process, there's steps. You have to learn. It has to become muscle memory.
Right.
Rote.
And we're getting away from the part where, imagine everyone had to go through the ritual back in the day of, I'm going to teach you how to drive a stick. Get in the car. Fire it up, push the clutch in, when you put it in first. No, you're in third. You got to pull it closer to your hip, but that's first gear. You'll feel it in first. When you start letting the clutch out and you give it some gas, you stalled it. All right, let's try it again. Work that little dance between your right foot and your left foot and so on and so forth. As we get away from that, and we get away from the kind of physical instruction world of, again, just learning to drive a stick when you're 15 and a half, or hunt, or repair things, or whatever that is. I wonder if the highway isn't getting built like that information where people are going to, I feel like my highway's in place because of all the physical instruction I got my whole life, and now I can hear ideas. We'll also now pass down that same highway that was built. But like, there's so many people, and I've experienced a few of them, where they're 19 and you're sitting down and going, here's what it's going to take and here's what it's going to do. But there's no highway. Mm-hmm. They never built their highway. It's just, it's an old man talking. And I know there's exceptions both directions. But I'm saying is I wonder if getting away from the instruction, my kids just don't get the instruction that I got. They just don't have the people in their lives telling them what to do and what not to do. Yes, Bryan.
So I'm going to say something you probably don't want to hear, but I wonder if part of the reason, only because you mentioned your kids, part of the reason is a push-pull thing where like, that's why, and I can't say at a young age, but that's why at a certain age, homework is important because for most of us who go to work in the corporate worlds, your life is going to be projects and due dates and please get this done by the end of the day or please get this done by the end of the hour or here's a project you and the team are working on for the next month. And I wonder if homework is being devalued a little bit or the right kind of homework. I don't mean like math problems. I mean like project-based stuff. Like in middle school and high school, they should be doing like, all right, you have a project, just do it in a month. That's accountability, and that's accountability not just to yourself, but to the team. You know what I mean? Which is what life ends up being for 80% of adults.
I agree.
Exactly what Bryan said. Just to simplify, working with deadlines.
Oh, no. The homework part in terms of you're responsible for this and it has to be turned in Monday morning, that part I like. I'd probably like it better if they said you have to go home and build a hummingbird feeder and bring it in Monday morning. I'd probably like
more realistic,
that,
frankly, than spelling or
that.
You know what I mean?
My homework thing is kind of twofold, which is I feel like you go to school for 7 or 8 hours a day. When you punch out, you should just be done with school. That I don't like the assigning of more to do when you get home. It's kind of threefold. I feel like, especially at 11 or 12, you've paid your debt to society. You got dropped off at school at 7:30. You came back at 3:30. You're done with school today. That's my feeling. The part where you do more when you get home, I don't really like. The real part, there's two other real parts of this. One is it ends up creating a bunch of stuff for you to do at home, like arguments, like I need more of this and you're not that and you got to help me and all that kind of stuff. But it also, in a world where we're talking about the haves and the have-nots, the folks that can hire tutors or have professional parents with like flexible schedules and stuff like that are much more able to do that stuff. If you're talking about, the mayor of Compton, like we were talking about, those people going back with the single mom who's working 2 jobs. I don't know. Good luck getting that homework assignment in. But let's. Where's Sonny? Can Sonny hear me? I'm gonna pull him in here and tell him I want more performance out of him. So, yeah, I agree with the exposure. I agree with the part where you have a task and you must complete it. Sonny?
Where's Santino?
We've decided we don't like your academics.
I don't know if he does either.
Yeah, I heard you talking about how you don't like homework.
And I'm going to insist that you do more homo work. Get the hell out of here, you scamp. Go take some drugs in the parking lot and light a cigarette for me.
That's it?
That's it. I'll bring you in when Cranston comes in and you can ask him a question.
All right.
Is that your favorite show?
What, Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the Man Show?
Remote doesn't work.
What about the other day when I wanted to watch my stand-up special in the theater I built, and you said the remote didn't work?
I didn't say the remote didn't work. It wouldn't download. We bought it, and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
We bought it, and then it didn't register.
Right.
Right.
But what if that was Breaking Bad? Do you think you could have solved the problem?
I think I would have put more effort into it, yes.
Or some effort into it?
I like the honesty.
I put some effort into it. I mean...
Let's see if we can do a breakdown of the movie theater in the house. What percentage of did Daddy pay for, and what percentage of it did Daddy work on?
You paid for at least 99% of it.
All right.
Okay, we can round that
up. And the work part.
The work you did, like 2-3%.
2 or 3%.
Yeah.
I built that goddamn riser, son. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I thought Peter did that. It seems like something you'd have Peter do.
This is a blurry line that everyone has. Whenever I go, I rebuilt this house and refurbished it. Did you hang every sheet of drywall? No, I did not. I did not spread every square inch of stucco. I did not hang every sheet of drywall. I did not haul every load of garbage to the dump. No, I did not. I paid for it all. I designed it all, and I did much of it. But no, I did not spread every ounce of joint compound on the
It'd be like
drywall.
It'd be like a contractor driving by a house with the son going, see that house, son? I built that. It's like, you built the
Did you
studs.
build it? Right.
It's like, well, all
brought
right.
your
No, I did
hammer?
not hammer the studs in.
Right. So the point is I built that theater and I paid for that theater. Now,
I built a good amount of it.
you did not.
Oh,
you
wow.
helped out for half a day. All right. Now let's break down percentages in terms of people in the house who utilize the theater.
Me?
You're number one.
No, not Natalia and her friends too much.
Number
More
one.
than-
All right. So
Natalia
they're
and
at a
the-
0% help with an 89% utilization rate.
Yeah. I'm like a 10%
You're
help.
2% help with a 71%
I'm
utilization rate.
10% help. Yeah. with
Mom's
a-
0% with 102% utilization rate.
Yeah.
And I'm at 99% with a 0% utilization rate.
99% and 10% don't add up to 100%.
All right. See? You don't need homework. All right.
It just makes the bad students worse, and that's why I'm such a bad student.
Oh, right. See, it creates a chasm.
Yeah.
This testing business is a racket.
That's right.
I'm good at testing. My average test score was 95,
Oh my.
and I'm still a very bad student.
Wait, out of 110?
Out of 100.
HIV
okay.
test.
Okay.
Oh,
Come on
That's a
now.
good
Brian.
thing. That's what you want.
All right, go compose a question for Mr. Cranston, and we'll
I've already
bring
composed many. I don't know which one I'm going to ask, though.
Like
All right.
what?
in. Well,
Let's test him out on
kill a
us.
few
I'm
of your
Brian.
darlings, but yeah,
I'm
go
Brian
ahead,
with a
test
Y,
them
I'm
out.
bald.
Test them out.
Yeah.
Yes.
What you got?
I want to ask him about what he thinks Vince Gilligan's going to do
Okay.
in the future, and if he's going to have a small role in
Yeah.
season 5 of Better Call Saul.
Back burner that question.
Yeah, you should ask him about his mezcal and tell him and give a real intense review of what you thought of it.
Of his like role in
His
Breaking
mezcal,
Bad.
Tequila.
his tequila company.
Oh,
It's got a booze
Sonny,
company.
all joking aside, I know you're a huge Breaking Bad fan, but generally don't ask super famous people what they think other famous people are going to do. You know what
That
I mean?
makes
Like,
sense.
He may not know. He may not talk to Vince Gilligan anymore.
Do you have a favorite moment from the show that really sticks with you? Because that might be something he'd want to hear about as well.
probably. I think it was the last episode of season 4, or one of the last. It was where he was in the crawl space and he was like laugh crying.
I knew it. Sonny.
one was
I
a
knew it.
very
That's
good scene.
Excellent. Yes. Bring
Ask
that
him,
up.
That's perfect. Ask him
Yes.
about it. Ask him what he was
I
thinking.
knew it.
Yeah, I
that
should
is
do
that is
that.
that is the pinnacle moment that all bets are off. Perfect moment, Sonny. Ask him
Yeah.
about how what it took to get into character for that. Was it easy? Was it hard? That's a perfect moment to bring up.
Okay, I'll talk
Yeah.
to him about that.
All right, do that, boy.
All right.
All right. So we'll do that in a second. I got a couple of phone calls up here. Let's see. Wants to share recent experience turning left on a red. An old lady wouldn't budge. Let's see. Pete, 47, Washington. All right. Hold on. Pete, can you hear me? All right. Hold on. Someone here's leaning.
He's on line 1, supposedly.
Oh, yeah, I hit line 1. I got these
Okay.
taped
I
off.
didn't see.
All right. Marco, 46, Albany, New York.
That's me. Thank you for having me back on the world's greatest podcast.
Thank you, world's greatest caller. What do you got?
I'm leading a discussion of your film Uppity next week in my racial justice work group. So I just watched it for the second time, and I wondered if I could get on and ask you a couple of questions.
Sure. What racial discussion work group do you have?
Yeah, what kind of job has this?
So I am an attorney. I work for the state of New York, and my group, we prosecute violations of administrative statutes.
Oh, okay. Ugh. I'd fucking kill myself. God.
What do you mean?
You work for the fucking city? What do you do? Telling business like how to run their business, or how's it work?
I work for the state.
Oh, the states.
And, there are rules, and when these rules are violated, the violators pay a fine, or sometimes they get their license suspended or revoked.
How much of it is legitimate versus what you would call sort of ancillary stuff?
Yeah, what's an example of like a typical complaint or something you investigate?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that we want to get into that. I wanted to talk about uppity.
All right, but how much of it would you consider substantial versus a nuisance?
In my case, everything we do is substantial.
Really?
Well, maybe once it gets to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
He's
once
an
it
attorney.
gets to you. Okay. All right.
That's right. And I can, and I also mediate a lot of these things and decline to prosecute if it is I'm a great admirer of yours. So I want to do something that was anathema to your philosophy.
Okay. Well, thank you. So, uppity discussion.
Well, let me start with the first thing. Was it the racial injustice angle that attracted you to the project in the first place?
No. I mean, I don't know if you separate. It's kind of hard to separate things. There's good subjects for docs, and there's bad subjects for docs. And
you always find racial injustice appealing. You just were attracted to the
I got
story.
my head on a racial injustice swivel. I'm like a linebacker dropping back into a hook zone. So I'm always looking for that angle. But I thought Willie was a great subject for a documentary.
I mean, he absolutely is. He's such a compelling character.
Yeah, that's the way we felt.
So, I mean, watching it today in these times, I couldn't really see it any other way. One thing I noticed was it seemed to me like Willie maybe would have done better had he been a little more diplomatic. He seemed remorseless in the film. Did he ever admit such a thing?
No, that's kind of the nuance of it, because you're always kind of left to wonder, was it racism or is it Willie just being, he could be abrasive and aggressive, and he punched guys at the track, and
right.
and I think you're sort of, what you're left to kind of think about or wrestle with is it was kind of some of each. There was elements of both. It wasn't this or that. It was an element of,
right.
You got a black guy, and that may have been okay, but now the black guy's on top of the roof celebrating like Muhammad Ali, and there's an element of, like, we race cars. We don't get up on roofs and do the Ali shuffle. So there's kind of an element of that. And it's kind of hard to tell. Like, if there was a white guy who got up on the roof and did the shuffle back then, they may have frowned upon that as well. So
But they wouldn't have taken it personally.
Probably.
That's one of my favorite nuances of the film, is that it's not just, Willie T. Ribbs is a victim. He was, but at the same time, to a certain extent, but at the same time, Willie didn't do himself any favors, maybe getting on top of the car and dancing, right. And he was abrasive, and it makes it a very interesting, nuanced sort of case.
Well, and there's a line in the documentary that sums it up perfectly when Willie says, "They called me uppity and I loved it."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what else do you need to know about Willie?
I don't know. And he said the whole
It is
word.
true. You can't isolate it out, right?
It's hard to, but look, I made the film and I don't know. So and Willie lived it, and he might not know exactly what was racism and what was, again, just him acting in a way that rubbed people the wrong way. But you have any other questions, Marco? I thank you for doing this.
I absolutely do have other questions. Well, here, how about a fun question? At some point, he brings up the Deacon Jones head slap. Is that prompted or organic?
If someone, who brings it up?
I think Willie brings it up, right?
Oh, Willie. Oh, you're right.
He hits a guy like Deacon Jones doing the head slap.
Right,
I know
that's
you've gotten
right.
a lot of mileage out of Deacon Jones.
that was complete happenstance. Willie's just of the age where he would have been familiar with Deacon Jones and his head slap, and he used that as an example of saying, I didn't punch the guy, I gave him a head slap, like a Deacon Jones head slap. That's right. Because when you go upside a man or a woman's head, they tend to blink their eyes. That's my favorite quote of all the NFL.
I know you love that. It's a great Easter egg.
I love it. Thank you, Mark. I love it not because I'm pro head slapping women. I love the fact that the NFL Network whoever whacked that thing together, NFL Films, just left it in there. They edit it out now. It's the most easily edited piece in the world because he goes, I tend, when you go upside a man's head, edit, they tend to blink their eyes. And then you go to game footage. You know what I mean? So you don't have to
smooth it over with, some old footage of him rushing.
Doing the head slap. It's the easiest thing to remove ever. And yet they left it in for 30 years. Until I spotted it and started yelling about it on the radio every 10 minutes, and then now it's gone.
Sometimes it's goalpost, sometimes it's head slaps. It goes both ways.
Social change. All right, real quick here. Brett, 32, San Diego, called a couple of months ago about getting into jiu-jitsu, and you want to give us an update.
Yeah, Ace Man, Paul and Gina, how you guys doing?
Good.
Hey.
Yeah, so when I called in a couple of months ago, I actually had a couple stripes on my white belt, and I was just about ready to give up. And just showed up early and often. Kept going, put my head down, grind it out, and just received my blue belt on Tuesday night. So I just wanted to say thanks. And I got called in, and I was in that spot where I was thinking about giving up, and I did it, obviously, and I just took your advice that you always have been saying for years, show up early and often, and sit down, pay attention. I did. And Ace Man, I actually have I have one more thing to the question, or my call-in rather, is I know you say you always have a real good memory. About 10 years ago in Fresno, California, I don't know if you recall running into two drunk guys that didn't quite know what they wanted from you.
Yes, I do. Clear. Out back.
You're talking to him, man. That was actually me and my buddy. And
to refresh your memory, when we're leaving the theater in Fresno or walking out the back, we'd already spent an hour in the lobby signing autographs and taking pictures and doing what we used to do back in the day when people could line up and shake your hand. And then when we walked out the back, you and your buddy were just drunk and kind of hanging out. And you're like, could we get a picture? And I was like, yeah, okay. All right. It's always a little annoying because these are people that didn't wait in line in the front of the place. They just hung out in the back and drank beer. And eventually when you walk out the back.
Made it much more difficult on themselves. They could have gotten this over with half an hour ago.
Well, they could have, but I think sometimes they go across the street and have a beer, wait for the line to run out, and then bum rush the guy in the parking lot. But then... so we could we get a picture? We're took a picture, and then you said could you sign this or something? I sign this, and I was kind of getting into the car, and as I was getting in the car, you and your buddy were like, "Oh, so that's it? That's all?" And I remember going up on stage the next night or wherever I was, and I ended up turning it into a bit, which is. Basically, what do you want? A blowjob by the dumpster? What do you mean that's all? Yes, that's all. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Adam. All right.
Appreciate it. All right, let me hit ZipRecruiter here. As an employer, you've got your plate full nowadays, and you don't need a bunch more on there. Running your business, regulations, ensuring workplace safety, make hiring easy. ZipRecruiter.com/Adam. That's where you go. Sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. Plus, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job. Features like screening questions to filter candidates and all-in-one dashboard to review and rate candidates. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Take care of your business, find the right employees, and whether you're looking for a job or you need someone to fill a position, it's always ZipRecruiter, right, Dawson?
Right now, to try ZipRecruiter for free, our listeners can go to ZipRecruiter.com/Adam. That's ZipRecruiter.com/ADAM, ZipRecruiter.com/Adam. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and do the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad, news with Gino Grad, breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gino Grad, trouble in the Middle East, celebrity drunk meltdowns. Need news with Gino Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
So just yesterday, I believe we were talking about, or at least within the last couple days, about how we don't really expect peace in the Middle East to come anytime soon. Well, maybe Trump is going to help push that along a little bit, because he says a peace agreement has been agreed upon by Israel and the United Arab Emirates. On Twitter, Trump called the agreement between our two great friends a huge breakthrough. Speaking in the Oval Office, Trump told reporters that the two countries will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board. And he said he expects other countries to follow the lead on this going forward. So good luck, Iraq and Iran and Lebanon and Jordan.
Jared did it.
It may be nice
at the time.
It may be nice. It may be. I wonder. This country's becoming more secular. We're just kind of drifting away from religion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think these other countries that are? I mean, the religion is kind of feel like it's driving a lot of the animus and the fighting and it all seems to be this group against that group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe the world will sort of drift away from religion, and maybe as it drifts away, maybe these tensions will cool a little.
Very possible.
I don't know.
I can see the trend being to drift away from religion gradually. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and when you put it like, when you talk about Sharia law or something that's, ages and ages and eons old, and that's
right.
controlling, stoning women or, mercy killing because somebody was raped or whatever, the things that are just such a bygone era that we couldn't even wrap our heads around. If that's based in religion and that starts to erode, then yeah, I guess I would consider that a step in the right direction.
Well, I just imagine and
that goes for many religions.
We know the ones you're talking about. All right, as the world gets older, we get percentages less religious every 10 years. It just goes. It just has to go that way. There's more data and more science and more satellites in the air and whatever. So it would make sense that would be true globally. It just would, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe we'll incrementally get there just through this long slog. Now, of course, it'd be nice just to fast track it by all these assholes not killing each other in the name of religion. But if that's not going to work, then maybe we just have to weed the religion out or have a lesser percentage involved. Anyway, all right, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Well, more White House news. Kanye recently took a meeting with Trump's son-in-law and White House staffer Jared Kushner, according to TMZ. Despite the no politics rule on his vacation with Kim and the family, Kanye reportedly snuck off to privately meet with Kushner while the family was in Colorado. Ivanka, Jared, and Kanye apparently linked up in Telluride in Colorado. Kanye tells the New York Times that he talked about Black empowerment, and he tweeted out, "I'm willing to do a live interview with the New York Times about my meeting with Jared, where we discussed Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics."
How are you going to have a secret meeting in this day and age? Is
and
it possible?
And tell the New York Times you'll tell them all about it.
Yeah, it feels like it sabotaged.
Who outed them? Was it a secret meeting?
Kanye outed himself.
Sounds like Kanye.
He just outed himself?
Sounds like it, yeah. He told them they had a secret meeting, and he'll tell you all about it.
He'd make the world's worst criminal. Like, could you imagine, trying to pull a caper off with him? Now, listen, mum's the word. We never met. You understand?
Ooh, that's a good hook. Mum's the word. Okay, I can use that.
You don't even know me because we've never met before. Understanding? I guess stay on script.
Now, how do you spell robbery? Is it EY or just Y? Because I'm tweeting about
Remember,
our plans.
you're already your checklist of duct tape and zip ties. Get rid of that. Burn that in the fire.
I'm TikToking this planning session
right
now.
Oh no! Jesus Christ, what a crazy world. Kanye was at Danny Two Sheets' wedding in Texas.
What?
Did I ever tell you guys that?
No. I didn't know that.
No. Danny Two Sheets was probably married about 12 years ago, I would say, in Texas. I'm trying to think of how we could figure that one out. Matt might have it on my calendar or something, but Kanye was definitely invited, and he definitely was there.
We're going to need more. I'm sorry.
That's all I really remember.
How do they know each other?
I think Kanye. I maybe this is true because it was true for Eminem. So I don't know if it's a universal thing, but Kanye, I think, loved Crank Yankers, and I think Kanye contacted Daniel to had his own idea for, it's crazy Kanye, right? You're watching a show going, I love that show. I'm going to get hold of the guy who does that show, and we're going to do our own show. So I think there was some of that.
Wow. But as opposed to Eminem, who just did a bit, Kanye bought a ticket and a tux and went to the wedding.
Yeah, so they had that relationship. Yeah.
That is, my mind is blown.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I should have brought that up at the time. I don't know what I was thinking.
Can we get some more information from Danny? Because this is a big one. This is a big discovery.
Yeah, I'll hit him up. I remember, I think Kanye was there, and I think Pete Berg got really drunk. And they had to throw him out or some version of that.
I know he's working on a puppet show with Kanye a few years back.
He was working on a puppet show with Kanye a few years back.
Oh, my God.
I don't think that's the same show. Oh, well, yes. Okay, we'll go with that. So there you go.
It's quite a revelation.
I know.
So Uber may not be in California much longer, and Lyft
Can I say
might be
this?
going the same way. Yeah.
That was one of the rare instances where I got so drunk the night before I couldn't effectively play softball the next day.
Oh, wow.
And that's a level of drunk that I don't normally get to.
It's dark days.
Because I can usually tie one on the night before and still play some pretty damn decent softball the next afternoon. I was fucking useless. I was popping up every time I got to the plate. I remember Kevin Hench was disgusted with me. He's like, "Oh, what happened? I thought you were a good softball player." I can't focus. I was sweating beer and shots out of my. We went to some barbecue place the night before and everyone just tied one on. I think it was in. God, it must have been. I don't know. It must have been in Austin. We must have went to Austin. Anyway,
is that where the wedding was?
Yeah, I seem to recall it was around there, but too drunk to play softball the next day. That's drunk. Yeah. All right, sorry. Lyft and Uber.
Yeah, we might not have Uber and Lyft here very much longer. Just depends on how things roll. So they might have to shut down their ride-hailing operations in California if a court ruling that blocks it from classifying its drivers as independent contractors goes into effect. This is according to Fox News. Big story right now. California judge Monday granted the state's request for a preliminary injunction blocking Uber and Lyft from classifying their drivers as independent contractors rather than employees. Several 100,000, these are, gig workers in the gig economy. The CEO said in a statement to CNBC, if the court doesn't reconsider, then in California, it's hard to believe we'll be able to switch to our model of full-time employment quickly. I want to say, was this AB? What was the proposition? But that basically, yeah. Everybody had to switch from being an independent contractor to being an employee, or basically owning your own business and being contracted that way. So if people are just driving...
AB5, sorry.
AB5, thank you. Then that doesn't fly in California anymore. If they took them on, they would have to give them, a certain pay, benefits, and Uber's like, how that would eviscerate our business model.
Well, the thing is Uber is the price it is, and Uber is whatever it is because they've sidestepped the business model that we have with cabs and medallions and all the official. So this is it's one of those things where you have a model. The model's not that efficient. The models don't get a lot of competition, and then they grow less efficient. And before you know it, you got the LA Unified School System, and then somebody says, I got an idea. I'm going to go start my own school and put out a better product at a cheaper price. And that's kind of Lyft and Uber. And the government kind of is stymied for a little bit. They go huh? What are you doing? I guess it sounds okay. And then eventually they go, wait a minute, how do we get paid?
Yeah, or what a lot of money off this.
What's in it for us? And then they start to work it out. And then eventually they come back and go, hey, charter school, you got to start paying for, or whatever that thing is. So they kind of figure it out. And
eventually.
And for us, and remember all the
food trucks.
Yeah, it's like there was like an early version of this where it's like how safe is this going to be? These guys aren't bonded or whatever it is, and it's like we don't care who picks us up and drives us somewhere. But the problem is, and look, I can kind of see both sides. So here's where my ultimate decision. Here's how I render my decisions. I get that. Uber and Lyft are sidestepping this thing in order to save themselves a bunch of money and in order to have, and that's why they can do things much cheaper than traditional companies because they don't have them as employees and they don't have to pay for, medical or overtime or whatever. And you go, well, that's not right. But on the other hand, where I usually come down on it is when you go, you're taking advantage of this person who is driving for your company. And my feeling is you don't have to drive for the company. If you don't want to be an independent photographer in Los Angeles, and we're getting away from the journalists who write for numbers of newspapers and work part-time or whatever it is, you don't have to do anything if you feel like you're being taken advantage of. Now, back in the day, we'd put you in a sweatshop and lock the door, and you'd be 11 and you had to make shoes or whatever it was. We used to have that in the United States. But now, most of the people I talk to who drive for Uber, and I would talk to a lot of the drivers, were like, yeah, I like it. I make good money. Yeah. I do it on my own terms. And
you're right. My guess is that of our listeners who are Uber or Lyft drivers, the majority, I'm imagining, want to be like, yeah, just please let me drive and make some money. I don't think I can't imagine they care too much about being independent contractors versus employees.
Well, remember,
let me have a vacation.
They did want to unionize because they thought they were getting screwed in terms of the cut that the company takes. For each, whatever it is, if it's a $10 trip, I don't know what the percentage, but they thought it was hefty.
It's a balance. It's going to be hard to strike perfectly, but to me, the ultimate decider is you don't have to work for Uber or Lyft. If you feel like they're being unfair or you should be an employee and you should get full benefits or whatever, then you got to go to In-N-Out Burger and get a job.
Yeah, the CEO of Uber actually wrote a piece in the New York Times at the beginning of this week, kind of stating that he's calling for a change in the employment system and that it's flawed inherently. And he says in public surveys over the last decade, the vast majority of drivers have said they don't want to be employees because of how much they value flexibility.
Yeah, I'm always on the side of the smart guys and never on the side of the government when it comes to we're imposing this thing that's going to help these people.
Well, and that's what I don't understand. I'm coming at this from a fairly naive place, so please help me understand it. If they think they're helping the worker, then they're wrong. I had to incorporate. I had to spend money that I didn't have to become a corporation so I could work for certain, voiceover and certain other things because they weren't allowed to hire an independent contractor. I lost money on that. It's very expensive to do that. And I don't know, am I being helped because I had to form a company to do a job I was doing already? I don't understand. How did that help me?
I always kind of feel like it's like SAG and AFTRA. Like, hey, we're going to force you to join our union and then we're going to help you. And it's like, I'd like to not join your union. Well, you have to, so we can help you. So I think the government is a little that way as well. All right, let me hit Madison Reed Mister here. You folks, you're getting a little gray around the temples, or maybe in the beard as well. Thinking about getting a little coloring in, but you want it to look natural. Madison Reed Mister. It's a gray blending. Blends out the gray. It's a natural look. You can go online and find out the right tone for you. Lynette, by the way, big fan of Madison Reed as well. I'm using the Mister. She's using the Sister. Madison Reed Mister makes it easy to find the color and match it on the website. It's quick and easy. Comes with a little kit. Comes with a little pouch. Put the gloves on. Rub it around your hands. Just sort of work it through your hair. Then put in the activator. Let it sit there for 10 minutes. Rinse it off. And again, you don't get that sort of Sharpie look. You get a natural look. It's Madison Reed Mister, right, Dawson?
Go to MadisonReedMr.com. Go to MadisonReedMr.com. That's MadisonReedMR.com and use code Carolla for 10% off plus free shipping on your first box. Again, that's code Carolla.
What else we got, Gina?
So you probably know this by now, but we hadn't discussed it. We talked about college, but NFL players were given until last Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. to tell the league whether or not they're going to play the upcoming season due to COVID-19. At the deadline, 66 players had submitted their decision not to play in the upcoming season. Only 3 teams recorded no opt-outs. Any thoughts on who those were?
Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
I follow the 49ers, and I don't remember any 49er opting out.
According to this report, the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Steelers.
Oh.
Doesn't seem to be
they're
a
going to
lot
have a
of
full squad.
rhyme or reason there. So no opt-outs for those 3 teams. I wonder
But
what the
66 overall.
66 out of 30. So it's like two people per team or something in that neighborhood. Wait a minute. No, sorry. 4 people. 3 and a half.
Those 32 teams.
As a third, I'm trying to do the math. Yeah, okay.
It's
So
a little over 2 per team, but yeah.
a little over 2 per team. Not too bad.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, they showed a couple people. Nobody made big, the marquee light bulbs around, oh my God, this is our star player. So I don't know if it's anyone that mainstream people who aren't crazy football hardcores will miss, or if you're going to have them on your fantasy team.
The beauty,
I don't know.
The beauty of the sport of football is no 1 or 2 guys can affect the team as much as they could as if, a couple guys on the Lakers decided to sit, or a couple of guys in other sporting venues. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm not sure if soccer's that way more so or not. But in football, if there's one thing that Bill Belichick has taught us over the last 20 years is that you can swap this guy for that guy and do some winning.
That's funny you mentioned that. Actually, I think it was a number of Patriots. Like, I think the Patriots had a few notable names, like Jamie Collins and a couple of notable kind of names, not household names, but notable names to football fans. So it'll be interesting to see if Belichick can kind of reload, or if this is kind of an off year. Let's play for a draft pick.
Or maybe Belichick is hedging his bets with the first year without Brady, paying out a couple of notable names to sit out so he can go, well, we didn't have our starting cornerbacks either.
Yep.
Although he's not doing that. Savvy. Yeah. Let's do one more, Gina Grad.
All right. So, when you go through the obits, they're pretty sad, and we hear about how wonderful people were and who they'll be missed by.
You know what I feel? I'll tell you what I feel bad about for the celebrity or the notable obits for this period we're in. It's the reason we should all feel sorry for Farrah Fawcett for dying on the same day as Michael Jackson. This time has been such a weird time that any celebrity that dies, I have no memory of it.
Yeah.
It's like I can't remember who died. And there's been a few, notable people that have passed in this time period. And it's all just kind of water off the duck's back for me. Like it's not been an imprint or stamp in my brain.
This would lead the news every night had it not been this time with COVID and with rioting. And by the way, Sumner Redstone died, which it did make me think of you.
When did
he was
I didn't hear that.
Just died yesterday, I believe, or the day before. He was 97. Would you like to know what he died of?
Broken heart.
That guy just sounds insane to me. The stories, the girls and the stuff. But
he was a code breaker in World War II.
Jesus Christ! All right, I'll do an old Jeff Ross bit. He was 97. You're going to ask me what he died of?
Yeah.
His dune buggy turned over on the turnpike.
I knew you'd get it.
Yeah, that was
natural causes.
Natural causes.
So like that, that didn't lead the news in anything.
Not at all. Didn't even hear one peep about it.
Yeah. So a 25-year-old died recently in upstate New York, and the family, of course, mourning the loss of this kid, 25 years old. His name's Cody James Holland. They said he was a free-spirited corrections officer, and they didn't pull any punches as to why he died. They said he died because he was a dumbass, according to the obituary. Holland's obituary
His family
reads like
wrote that?
Yes. And here's why. I'm going to read you the obituary. Cody James left us on August 8th, 2020, as a result of injuries sustained from being a dumbass. He drank, drove, and didn't wear his seatbelt. Please don't be a dumbass. It goes on to describe Holland, who loved his middle finger and showing his butt to the world. His mother, Colleen Lynch, says she chose to make the obituary brutally honest because he was doing dumbass things. And she said, if this obituary makes even one person rethink drinking and driving, then I have no regrets.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
It's look, tough love to the grave. Like, I mean, that is
beyond.
That's interesting parenting. I would argue, though, it's like you complaining about your kid being a total piece of shit. Isn't some of that on the parenting? Like, I don't know if you guys. Sunny? If you guys are nature or nurture fans, but this one's nature or nurture. Either way, he sprung from your loins, and he's a disrespectful sack of shit who can't hold his
avenue. Yeah, you go down. He's gonna look bad on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
She only has so much awareness. She has awareness, but not self-awareness.
I would argue that that's part of the problem. This person's lack of introspection when it comes to child rearing.
Yeah,
fair.
All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Quick 15 seconds, Simply Safe. No one should feel unsafe at home. Protect your home today and get free shipping. 2 eyes in here, people. SimplySafe.com/Adam and get the protection you deserve. Well, the great Bryan Cranston is ready to zoom in any second now, so we'll take a quick break. We'll bid adieu to Gina and Bald, and we'll do a one-on-one with Bryan Cranston right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Bryan Cranston's birthday cocktail party for March 7th. Let's see who's invited. Wanda Sykes, Jenna Fisher, from the Zombies, Chris White. He's got 2 questions. What's your name? Who's your daddy? J.D. Ploss is here. And Michael Eisner. NFL Hall of Famer, Lynn Swann. Author and director, Bret Easton Ellis. And the guest of honor, Bryan Cranston. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Wow, that's a stacked birthday party you're having there, Bryan Cranston.
That's not a bad little company to have, is it?
No.
We're having a big bash. There's going to be 1,000 people tonight. We're celebrating my birthday late. No masks, nothing. We're all just going to dive into the COVID-filled pool.
Speaking of COVID-filled, and you tell me if this is true, but I was speaking of you as a hero earlier in the podcast, which is you contracted the disease. You did not tell anybody, I mean, in the media. You didn't go public with it. And then you went to donate platelets to help others who may have gotten this disease, and then went public when it was suggested that you could help get more people to donate if you got the word out?
Yeah, not to name drop, but my wife and I are friends with Tom and Rita, and when they contracted it in March, and we were surprised, and we were in contact with them, and then all of a sudden, just after they got it, we got it. It was weird, and Tom came out with it, and I think by him doing so, it was great. People all of a sudden went, wait a minute, fucking Tom Hanks got it, so anyone can get it. And I think really paid more attention to it, certainly more than, they would be getting information from the White House. And so I didn't feel it was any need to have, another celebrity say, hey, I had it too. So I didn't say anything. And then Tom told me he was donating plasma. And I thought, oh, can you give me the name? And he said, yeah, here's the name. And so I started donating plasma. I'm doing it again for the 3rd time next week. And while I was doing it, it was a new experience for me. You're sitting in this really comfortable chair for about an hour. You're watching a screen, television, you're watching a movie or whatever, and and they're drawing blood out of you and putting it into the centrifuge. It spins out the plasma, then puts the platelets back and blood back into your system. So that's and the result is this these two big packages of liquid gold, man. It's beautiful. And they said it really helps those who have it to fight it off. And then part of that plasma donation goes to the research labs. So it's like, oh, well, this is the thing I have to do. It's not even a question. So I was videotaping it, and the phlebotomist said, I remember the last time you were here, you videotaped it. And I said, yeah. And he goes, will you post that? Because our donor list has dropped off considerably, and we're hoping that maybe we can get more donors. And it's like, you know what? There it is. There's a good reason to out myself and say, I had it. And if you had it and got through to the other side and healthy now, then maybe you'll consider that. So that was the whole point.
How does the process work with the platelets? Is it blood out, blood in? Or is it literally pulling it out and pushing it back in through a separate?
No, it's the same one. And actually, they're taking plasma from me. So they pull out the plasma. That's where the antibodies live, in the plasma. And then the platelets go, which is basically your blood cells, go back into your system. But I guess they draw out the blood at a certain point, then it stops, then they push back in. I'm actually not sure. I'm going to ask that next time I'm in next week.
And you have to wait. You said it's almost time to do it again, because like I used to give blood on a regular basis, and I think you had to wait like 7 weeks or an X amount of time in between sessions. Yeah. But I don't know what the protocol is for the platelets or the plasma.
Well, the plasma, yeah. The people who have had COVID-19, who no longer are infected but have the antibodies, like myself, will either get a phone call if they want you to come back in, or a letter saying thanks but no thanks. Your plasma is no longer needed for us because the antibody has diminished to a point where it's not as helpful anymore. So they called me and said, you're still good. So if you'd like, come back in. And I said, all right, let's do it. And it's like about every 3 to 4 weeks.
How did the disease, or I don't know, call it a disease, sorry, but the COVID-19, how did it manifest itself with you and your wife? What were the symptoms? Did you feel it immediately?
I didn't. I caught it from my wife. She got it first, and she's a very diseased woman anyway. So,
wow, look, you have that much sex with Tom Hanks, and eventually,
you're
going to spread the disease.
What? Wait, what?
Surely I can't be the first person to tell you this. It's been talked about in Hollywood for years.
It's funny. You know how when whenever you're giving blood, you remember how the nurse practitioner or the nurse is sitting and she's going down a list of things like, do you ever use intravenous drugs?
Right. Yeah. You traveled to Haiti.
Yeah. Have you ever traveled to Haiti? Have you ever had sex with a man before 1985? And I always go, wait, 1985, 1975, 76. No. 85, yeah, no. Just to mess with them. But no, we were very lucky, Adam. We had about 2 days or so of, that tentative feeling you have when you feel like a flu is coming on. Mm-hmm. Your whole body feels a little achy and you feel weak. I had that for 2 days, and then I had a temperature of 99.8 for 3 hours. And then the next day that was gone. And I had one more day of, just kind of feel low, but not enough to stay in bed. I was up and walking around, but just, I felt like I wanted to take a nap every hour for a week.
Well, do you think there's a correlation here? Because I've been hearing some studies, and I've always talked about it myself, which is I just sort of grew up kind of a sewer rat, out in the dirt, trouncing about, never taking antibiotics. I didn't take antibiotics my entire life, and just sort of No, I never had real proper medical insurance, or I just kind of ride things out. Like I rode everything out. I had strep throat. I just ride it out, but now I don't get sick. And I'm not allergic to anything, and I don't have, I don't get acid reflux. Like I just don't get all the commercials I see all night. I go,
Right.
nope, don't have that. Don't need a CPAP cleaning machine, and I don't get acid reflux, and I don't
What
have
about the-
antihistamines. Yes.
Erectile dysfunction. What about that?
ED, yes. Obviously, I'm going to do a commercial for now. I don't have anything, and I think a lot of it was rolling around in the dirt my entire life. And I know you grew up in the same dirt I grew up in, and your family was probably as dysfunctional and less as likely to get you proper medical attention as mine was. And do you get sick less than most? Do you have allergies? Is there any correlation there?
Some of the allergies that I've experienced now have come on since I've been an adult. One year, I was living in New York, and I was dating a really beautiful woman, and we were like getting along quite well. But it was only 3 months into the relationship, and my birthday shows up, March 7th, and she gives me a kitten. She gives me a kitten.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I never talked about wanting a kitten. I live in an apartment in New York, and it's like, and here's a kitten. To give someone a live pet as a gift is completely out of its mind. And I developed an acute allergy. I was sneezing, and my eyes were itchy always. So I went to an allergist, and he said, well, you're allergic to many things, mostly cat dander. So and I go, so I had to get rid of the cat.
Do you think her getting you a kitten is sort of the male version of you getting them lingerie? You know what I mean? It's not really for them. It's more like you want to see them in it. Like she wanted to hang out with the kitten in your apartment. Wasn't really so much for you.
I mean, it both involves pussy. But aside from that, let's not go down that road.
I think we're already down it.
Down that road. No, that has nothing to do with it. Here's giving someone a live animal that they were never talking about is like giving your wife a toaster for a present. It's like a functional household need, but that is not a present. My wife always says, if it has a plug, it's not a present. So it puts a little pressure on me.
So, by the way, I should explain to people that Bryan has a movie out, The One and Only Ivan, which is very good. I watched it last night, and you can get it coming out soon. It's going to premiere on Disney Plus. That'll be Friday, August 21st. Bryan does a fantastic job. It's a touching movie, and it's got a lot of big-name voices in it. Sam Rockwell and Angelina Jolie and Danny DeVito and Helen Mirren and many other recognizable voices, but Bryan is doing the live action part of it. Bryan is, I guess should be the star of the movie.
Well, not if you look at the poster. You look at the poster,
right.
And it says "and Bryan Cranston," so I'm on the list, but I'm not at the top of the list.
I love your career, and the reason I love your career is because it didn't get out of the gate as, like, I don't know, Leif Garrett. You weren't a big sensation when you were 22 or 27. I mean, I like these kind of perseverance meets talent meets an evolving craft kind of story, which is your career, which is the Bryan Cranston story. Was it how, and also the evolving of it? Like, do you feel like you're getting better at it every year?
Well, it's certainly something that you feel like I have so much to learn, because I like to put myself in a position of something new. I don't want to do Fast and Furious 17 and just show up and drive a car and look pained and then high five someone and there's your movie. That kind of stuff bores me. So, and by the way, those are very, very successful movies. I have a habit of choosing films that I really love to do, but aren't necessarily big box office, huge hits. I haven't really thought about why that is or what, but I guess I like to select films that have deepened conflicting characters, that the lead character is, or my character would be troubled and damaged to some degree, because I can certainly relate to that. As you were alluding to before, growing up in the Valley with a middle class or lower middle class environment, my parents blew up their marriage when I was 12, and it really, really set me back. And right at the age you think, okay, so they know what they're doing, and when I become an adult, I'll know what I'm doing. And that belief system just completely disintegrated. And so you have to it took me several steps back. So through high school, I was very quiet in high school. Not too many people knew me, and I didn't know what to do exactly. And then I stumbled on acting in college, quite by accident, because I just needed an elective course. And so, but it was so much fun, and it's so engaging. And the girls were so much prettier in theater than they were in the police science
yeah,
course.
You were getting into law enforcement. Were you a Monarch? Were you a LA Valley College guy?
Yes, I was a Monarch.
Yeah, I went there for a little while too. It was sort of a place to I found it like a place you could kind of hide out in for a couple of years so people didn't hassle you, because you could tell them you were taking college classes, but I had no idea what I was doing there. I was just sort of hiding out. But your family, so the more I sort of look at family, the scariest thing you can do to a kid is sort of seem incompetent or out of control, as I think back at it now. Like, so having a father who's very stern, or having a father that, is very angry, let's say, or having a mother that's very stern or angry or depressed or anything, it's all bad. But having parents that feel out of control, like, oh my God, these people don't know what they're doing. Like you're in a commercial airliner, and the pilot is Jim Backus, and he's just hit his head and he's passed out.
Gilligan. Oh.
It was a mad world reference. But the point is you're in a plane and you realize the pilot doesn't know what he's doing, and you're way too young to reach the pedals, kind of thing. Is this cathartic for me, or was that a feeling you had with your parents?
Well, I didn't know that I had that feeling about my parents until they did. So my mom was, very insecure and susceptible, very emotional, and my dad was very ego-driven. My dad was a writer and an actor, and he wasn't a star by the time he was 40, and it just really drove him crazy. And I learned from that it destroyed him effectively. It created tremendous turmoil. It blew up a marriage. The rest of his life was always, on pins and needles. It was never secure. So to live under that kind of stress was amazing. And it all stemmed from his need to achieve some level, some plateau of stardom that I thought, oh, that's the wrong way to go about it then. So what's interesting, parents are always teaching us, constantly teaching us when we grow up. In the best of cases, they're teaching you who you should be, who you should emulate, how you should strive to better yourself. But in some cases, like in my case, they also taught me what not to be by being that way.
Yeah.
By failing at what they were doing, I realized, oh, I'm not going to be like that, because that is a one-way trip to disaster. And my mom, when my dad left the family, she was destroyed. She stopped living. She became an alcoholic. She was emotionally distraught from that point to the rest of her life.
Was she that in love with the man, or was there obviously there are other things at play, but was it just purely an obsession or love with your dad?
My mom was wonderfully spry. She was very flirtatious. She was a beautiful woman, and she was like Blanche Dubois from Streetcar Named Desire. She always depended upon the kindness of strangers. Mm-hmm. So she would pay it. She loved the attention from men, and she was married 4 times. She had scores of boyfriends. She just needed that attention. So in retrospect, what I realized about her is that she was also, as lovely as she was and energetic and fun, she was also tremendously insecure and immature. And that combination really hit her hard when she was left by my father for another woman. She couldn't handle it and began drinking and didn't stop drinking until she had a stroke and had to go into the motion picture hospital for the rest of her life.
When did she pass away?
In 2004, 16 years ago.
We're looking at old pictures of you guys.
Yeah, that's my mom. That's me in the front.
Where are you guys at? Are you at some kind of school
Washington,
or park?
D.C. We're in Washington, D.C. You see the Capitol?
Oh, in the very back. Yeah. So something I was talking to someone about earlier today, and I thought it'd be a good subject to get into with you, which is sort of, kind of incremental goals, which is, I think someone was saying to me, like, were you planning on being a star or having success or being rich or whatever? And I said, no, I was planning on surviving when I was about 8 or 9 to sort of get out of make it to junior high. And then when I got out of high school, I was dreaming about having a job, you know what I mean? Just working, and then after doing that, I started thinking about doing comedy, but I never shot past all the stages of kind of survival, or I wanted dental insurance at some point, or I wanted insurance for my pickup truck. I never shot past to stardom,
The idea of getting your own apartment was like, wow.
Right.
That's cool.
Right. And so maybe that's a kind of an incremental thinking. Maybe your dad didn't do incremental thinking. Maybe he shot right to the Academy Awards and didn't do I need my own place and I need some stability.
Yeah. When you let ego get ahead of your progression in your field, in your talent, in your abilities, it can derail you in your actual goals. Everything takes time. Look, Malcolm Gladwell says you could become an expert if you put in 10,000 hours of service and work on any given thing. You can become an expert to it. But charlatans will always want to circumvent that and make their way, or people who are driven by their ego. Now, my dad worked as an actor. He worked a lot as an actor, but he didn't become a star. And by not becoming a star, it made him feel that he was a failure. So when I started out acting, my goal, like you, was I want to become a working actor. If I can make my living as a working actor, and I didn't put a price tag on, there wasn't a number connected to that. Just if I can pay my bills from my acting jobs, that's my success. If I go no farther than that, I would be happy. And that happened when I was 25 years old. And because I didn't focus on making money, but just getting better, just focus on working harder and getting better at your craft. And all of a sudden, good luck started to come my way because I really loved the work. I really loved what I was doing. And I was supporting myself, my wife. She was working as an actor at the time too. And then we were able to scrape together enough to buy a little house in the valley. And we had a baby. And we're like living a very middle-class environment and saving our money. And then boom, a bunch of different things were happening, and Seinfeld, and I was doing pilots, and I did a couple series that didn't go anywhere. And then when I was 40, Malcolm in the Middle happens.
What was funny when you said you're talking about your dad being 40 and not having that success, and I thought, Bryan was probably around 40 at Malcolm in the Middle. I mean, is it coincidence? Is it cosmic? Is it planned? Is it planned without being conscious of a plan? I mean, your dad sort of taught you this incremental, one foot in front of the other, kind of this approach to this very low percentage endeavor called being a paid actor. So, and I was always with you in your mindset, which is, hey, if you can get paid and you don't have to drive a taxi or work on a construction site, if you can just make a living doing something that's super low percentage, that's pretty damn good. I mean, you're way ahead of the game. It's almost like saying, you can make a living being a professional baseball player for the rest of your life. And you'd go, yeah, I would do that. And now you're not going to be on the Yankees. You're not going to start at shortstop, but you'll have a comfortable living as a professional baseball player for the rest of your life. You'd go, oh, that's the greatest job ever. Yeah. This is basically that, essentially. Yeah. And I always felt the same way.
So how old were you, Ace, when you were able to make enough money by going on the road and doing stand-up, maybe writing here and there? How old were you then?
When I started down the road to be even broader than what your goals were, and your goals were not laser focused, but at least you had a lane, like your lane was acting. Yeah. When I was 21, 22, and I was sitting in my North Hollywood apartment on Laurel Canyon and Riverside, and I was just sitting there thinking, it's got to be more to life than driving a pickup truck and working on a construction site with a bunch of guys named Mike, because everyone was named Mike back then. It was always funny, like, where's Mike? Mike the tin knocker? Mike the sheet rocker? Which Mike? Which Mike? It's always like
cement guy.
Cement. Oh, hold on. The finisher or the former? Or rebar Mike? Or pumper Mike? Who's working the pump? That Mike. Everyone's named Mike. So I was like, I got to get away from all these mics, you know? So I was just sitting around at 21, 22, and I just thought, let's do a realistic assessment. What do you think you're good at? Not what do you want to do? You want to play safety for the Rams, but that's not going to happen. What are you good at? Or what abilities do you have? And I said, well, I'm good with my hands, and I'm a hard worker, so I'm good on a construction site, and I'm funny, but I don't know what it means. All I know is I'm funny. I don't know if that means stand-up funny or work in a writer's room funny or sitcom funny. I don't know what any of it means. You're funny, almost generically funny. That's all. And I was like, all right, well, why don't you start, get up and go to work tomorrow for sure, and don't miss any days on the construction site. But at night, why don't you start pursuing the funny? Why don't you take some groundlings classes? I didn't even know what a groundlings class was. I found somebody who told me someone's mom told me what a groundlings class was. And why don't you start, taking improv classes at the church in Hollywood on Saturday morning with Mindy Sterling or whatever, Cynthia Seghetti, all these people. And
I studied with both of them too.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Cynthia and Mindy.
Yeah, Cynthia Seghetti, Mindy Sterling.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, go over there and throw yourself sort of on the mercy of their court, And I was, real blue collar, and everyone else seemed to be educated and have some kind of background in some theater and some college, and I didn't know anything, but I just said, I'll just put myself into this world, and then the next day I'd be back on the construction site, and everyone would say, what are you doing? And I'd go, I'm taking an improv class. And they go, improv? Oh, yeah, like Richard Pryor's playing the improv. I'd go, no, this is improvisational humor. And they go, how's it work? And they always say, how much do they pay you? And I'd go, no, you pay them. And they'd go, what? Get the fuck out. And then one of the mics would start making fun of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so I just did that without any sense of direction. I just said, I will go try to learn this thing. And then eventually the groundlings said, thanks, but no thanks to me. And then I started with the Acme Theater. And then I built the Acme Theater on Lancashire and NoHo there, and was there. And I all I was doing was kicking around and trying to learn as much as I could learn. I wasn't going on auditions. I didn't have headshots. I didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't feel like I deserved it. Like it was like the notion of, why would you go out and audition? You don't have anything to offer at this point.
Right.
That's the way I looked at it.
And so how old were you when you actually were making some money by going on the road and doing some comedy?
I didn't make any money until I was 30 and like 3/4 or 31 when I met Jimmy Kimmel and I trained him to box for the K-Rock morning show, Kevin and Bean. And I started getting like $50 a bit and $200 a bit or something. And then eventually I became the host, or one of the hosts, of Loveline in like 1996. I was like 32, and I started actually making money. And the first thing I did was pay the IRS, because I owed them like $4,000 from, not essentially working or working the way under the table and all that kind of stuff. And then I immediately started saving for a house. And then I bought my first house like a year later in the Hollywood Hills and just refurbished it, and I never really looked back from that point.
But it's a great feeling, isn't it? When you get to the point where, I'm sure once you got on Loveline, I thought Man Show came before Loveline, but I guess not.
No, it was Loveline and then the Man Show.
Oh, okay. But didn't you wasn't there a feeling like, oh, I can do this? I don't feel like I am faking it. I can act. I have an ability, a talent. I can make people laugh. I can guide this show, and I know my job here, and I could do this. Did you have that epiphany? And so from then on, I'm good, and I'll make a living in this business.
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts. Like my thoughts were, well, this is crazy. I'm driving a car that doesn't have a lumber rack on it. Like I'm driving a regular car with air conditioning and stuff. Like that was a big deal, a newish car. And I'm going to my home in the hills, and also the one thing I really realized is all the people that are in this business that you're working with, they don't have anything on you. They may have gotten a better start. They may be more educated. They may have more theatrical training or whatever, but they're not funnier than you are. And you couldn't really, it's hard to sit home and watch SNL or listen to the morning radio. And you have to kind of put the gloves on and get in the ring to know if you can take the champ out. And after getting in the ring and sparring with the champ, I felt like, oh, I can spar with the champ. That was my feeling. And once I kind of internalized that, I was like, okay, now you can't take it away from me, because I know I have that ability.
Yeah. That is an epiphany. Yeah, you had that experience that you knew that you belonged.
And it was also weird for the first time ever. I'd have guys like Jimmy Kimmel would be going like, "Oh my God, you're the funniest guy I've ever met." And I'd be like, "Oh, really?" And they'd go, "Oh yeah." Like I never had anyone believe in me. I know that sounds corny, but I just mean I never heard anything like, "Hey man, you got a talent. You got to do something with that talent." And that wasn't anything that had ever been discussed before that.
Certainly for guys like us dealing with the mics of the world, and you really find out who your friends are, because once, if I told friends or acquaintances who I grew up in and around in the Valley, I said, I was going to be an actor, a lot of them would go, "Oh, really? Yeah, you're going to be a big star? You're going to go off and be a big star?" And they would choose the side that's not supportive at all, right? It's like you have those jackasses, and then you have very few who say, "I bet you're going to do well. I think you're, and you're maybe surprised by the ones who choose to be your support group, and those there was actually more of a majority who were very cynical about anyone wishing to break away from the pack of, kids growing up in the valley, just like any other little suburb in the country.
I know, it's funny. It's like you're all living in the same gulag or rowing on the same Viking ship, and you have the temerity to go, my back's sore. I'm going up top on the deck and get some fresh air. Then where are you going, Cranston? You think you're better than this Viking ship? Get down here and row.
See, you are funny, Adam. You are. You should listen to them.
That endorsement from Cranston leaves me, and it's a good segue, which is my son, now 14, Sonny, has now seen every episode of Breaking Bad and is completely obsessed with the show. And so it's also a funny thing was I told him, I didn't even tell him. He found I was on a rowing machine last night, speaking of the Viking ship. I was on a rowing machine last night, and he came down to the gym I was in and my basement, and he said, Bryan Cranston's going to be on the show tomorrow? And I said, yes. And he goes, you didn't tell me when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was coming on, and you didn't tell me when Tony Gonzalez, tight end for the Chiefs, was going. I missed those two, and now I'm going to miss Cranston. And I said, well, come into work with me, and you can ask him a question yourself. So he
is he there?
He's coming in.
Good.
I'm going to do a spot, and then we'll take a millisecond break, and we'll come back, and Sonny Carolla will ask you his question he queued up. First, I'll tell you about Bet Online. No shortage of action coming up with our exclusive partner, betonline.ag, MLB, NBA, NBA. They're all back. Plus UFC, you got a big fight coming up on Saturday. Stay tuned. After this podcast, as Fox Sports analyst Chris Myers talks to BetOnline's Dave Mason about returning sports and what that's going to look like in the next coming months. Need more? BetOnline has simulated NFL, NBA, and UFC daily. Also, hundreds of live casino games, poker tournaments, best props in the business. Visit betonline.ag, our exclusive partner at Podcast One. Don't forget, promo code podcast1 for your sign-up bonus today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. That's betonline.ag. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come right back with Cranston and Sonny Carolla and his question right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hey, Carolla. Real quick, man, if you could expound on, is it a lateral move or is it an upgrade to move from Queens, New York, to Fontana, California? This is what I have done, and this is the situation I'm in. I'm sure you could do 10 minutes on it, the pros and the cons from each one. Please, let me hear it. Later.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Well, it's actually a downgrade, but Fontana has a giant racetrack that I've been to many times with Sonny Carolla, actually. So if you're into NASCAR or Indy, then it's we can salvage your slightly downward move. Sonny Carolla.
Hi.
Meet Mr. Bryan Cranston.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Cranston. It's good to see, get to FaceTime you.
Oh, Cranston
I
is...
think he's muted.
We'll unmute him. Sorry.
Oh, someone muted me?
No, we got you. Sorry.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Hi, nice to meet you, Sonny.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
Sonny Carolla. Sonny Carolla sounds like a character that Joe Pesci would play in a movie. Right?
Well, it was interesting. My name is Adam Carolla, which doesn't really connote any ethnicity, you know what I mean? So the Carolla sounds Italian, but Adam sounds Jewish. At least when I grew up, the handful of Adams were Jewish. So my whole life, everyone would say to me, what kind of name is Carolla? And I'd go, what do you mean, what kind of name is Carolla? And they go, Adam Carolla. I don't know what that is. But it was the Adam that was throwing them off, because if my name was Tony Carolla, we'd have no problem. So when it came time to bring a child into the world, we thought, let's name him Santino. And that way people will know his heritage, right, Sonny Carolla?
Yeah, I think people know I'm Italian.
Do you have
been to Italy?
No, we were supposed to go this summer, but you know.
You're going to love it. And if you trace back to see where your ancestors came from, you're gonna appreciate it even more. It's a beautiful country.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very excited about going. It looks like a nice place.
Yeah, his mom is full-blooded Italian, so both parents are from Italy. So Sonny's at the 3/4 mark because I'm half. All right, Sonny, had a question for Mr. Cranston.
Yeah, I had a few. What was the hardest scene to film in Breaking Bad, or of all time, maybe, and anything?
Well, there's a couple of them. There's a couple scenes late in the series where we're outside, and it's about 4 degrees, and you're shooting outside, and you could feel your body shaking from the cold and the condensation coming out of your mouth when you're speaking, but you can't act that. It was not about being cold. So you just have to really focus your mind and breath to just calm down, and then just do it. And then before your body convulses involuntarily from the cold, you know what that's like. You've been in really cold weather before. And then you get warm real quick. It's a cut, and they run up and they throw a parka over you, and you jump into a van that's a warming van, and just try to get your temperature up. And then they come and say, okay, ready for take 2? And it's like, yeah, okay. And you rush out there and you do it over again. You do it several different times. That's a physical difficulty. But I think that the most difficulty that I had was, remember I think it was in season 2 when Jane died of an overdose?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, when I was preparing for that scene, I have a daughter who was her age, and I was preparing for that scene. And as I'm writing my notes for what could possibly be happening during that scene, as an actor would, and the possible emotions that you could be feeling at any given time, what I do is I write that all down and puts it in my brain, and then I let it go. So that if it pops up, it's real, it's spontaneous, and you got to deal with it. And one of the things that I wrote down was in a pro and con list about, should I save her life? Should I let her die? I really did. I wrote that down. Because that was the dilemma that Walter White was facing. And one of the reasons of I should save her life was she's young enough, she could be my daughter. And I wrote that down, and then wrote other things down. Well, sure enough, one of the takes, I was there and looking at her, and Kristen Ritter, who played her, was beautiful and wonderful off-camera acting full on for me, choking to death. And all of a sudden, her face just kind of melted away, and I saw the face of my real daughter dying in front of me. And God forbid that ever happens to anyone that we know. It's the worst fear that a parent can have. It's not the natural order of things, to see a child go. And so it scared me. And that's the take they used, where I'm shocked, and I choke back an emotion because I saw my daughter's face instead. And I in retrospect, I remembered, it probably came to me because in the back of my head, I wrote down, she's young enough, she could be my daughter.
Oh, wow.
That was my most emotional, difficult scene to do.
He has some questions that he was going to ask Tony Gonzalez, but he never made it. So if you wouldn't mind answering a few of those just to kind of round out the kid's childhood.
Right. Len Dawson, was there before I was able to get to Kansas City. Most people think that to do a down and out route is easy, but I'm telling you, you get slammed by that outside linebacker, and you don't know what's up, and you got to focus on that spiral coming in, and knowing full well you're going to get hit. You got to focus on catching that ball and tucking it.
That's the Cynthia Seghetti training coming right out of Cranston. Yeah, Cynthia, God rest her soul. It was a funny, she was this big, loud woman, as you know. And she was kind of the Mama Cass Elliott of improvisational groundlings teachers. But she was like one of these people who was big and blustery, but you knew she had that heart of gold. But that was kind of her trademark, was yelling. You'd enter a scene and she'd go, "Okay, lights up, here we go," and you'd come walking out on stage and you'd go, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And she'd yell, "Stop, you know what he's doing, turn around and come back in. Don't ask questions. You know what he's doing." And then she'd go, "Lights up," and you'd come out again, and you'd walk out with your hands in your pockets, and you'd go, "What did you bring to the party?" And you go, "I didn't bring." "Go back, come back again. Tell you brought something to the party." And one time, Sonny, Daddy had girlfriends before Mommy. And
Bill does, don't he? No? Oh, no, sure.
Just to stick with the before. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you're going to have to Uber home because I got to swing by Aunt Julia's house. My girlfriend dumped me. I know, hard to imagine, right? And picture me, but broke. So you know what she was dealing with. And she dumped me, and it was like one of those times I was so upset. You know that when you're 23 and you get dumped kind of feeling that it's the worst misery ever. And I remember we took a break at the Groundlings with Cynthia Seghetti, and it was like intermediate or writer's lab or something like that. And I tried to call her with a payphone during the break, and she just pricked up and she's like said, "Stop calling, it's embarrassing," and hung up or whatever. And I went back into the class, and Cynthia was like, "Okay, everybody, let's get back up on stage." And I pulled her aside and I just said, "Cynthia, I just can't do it. I'm so heartbroken. I can't go up on stage and do comedy. I need to leave. And I just need to leave, and I just want to quietly leave. And if you could just tell people I don't know, I got a cramp or something. Like, I'm just going to leave now, okay? And just tell them Adam wasn't feeling well. And so here I go. So I start walking out of the Groundlings, and Cynthia goes, "Well, Adam Carolla's leaving because his girlfriend dumped him." And everyone's looked at me. He's like, "Oh, the poor baby can't do comedy because he's not having a good day." Well, how's that going to work when you're not having a good day and you can't do comedy because your girlfriend dumped? And everyone was just staring at me while I was standing in the doorway of the Groundlings. And I thought, "You bitch." But I went back in and did comedy, and it was fine.
How were you?
I sucked. I have no recollection other than, "God damn it, Cynthia, we had this whole conversation about me needing to sneak out of here and go in a corner somewhere."
In retrospect, were you appreciative that she said you got to buck up and do it? Because sometimes, and Sonny, this is a good lesson. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to do things and you don't feel like it. You got bad news or whatever. You don't feel like it. You don't feel strong, but you got to go in there and do it anyway. Certainly as an actor, or you have a stand-up gig, you can't just say, "Oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, I'm canceling."
Right.
Yeah.
You can't look. If you're a crane operator, or you work at Trader Joe's, you can't do it either, really. It's not a bad lesson. I
fear more about the crane operator being distraught than the person working at Trader Joe's, just for obvious reasons.
It's a good point. Like, if that guy snaps, people are going to die. Whereas Trader Joe's, you just don't get your banana chips in the right order in the bag. It's funny. Trader Joe's is a funny Inside Valley thing, because I remember Trader Joe's from 30 years ago, maybe more. Like, it was a novelty, nautical themed market that always just seemed like kind of a novelty place, and now it's literally taken over the universe.
Yeah, with the Hawaiian shirts and the rope.
Yeah,
between,
rope everywhere, and the guy checking you out was called Skipper. And it had a fake parrot on his shoulder. Like, it was a bizarre, novel place. It wasn't the go-to place. Like,
No.
you know how something has entered the lexicon is because when you hear pundits and politicians and stuff, and you hear them go, these guys, the teachers don't want to go back to work, but the guy who works at the Trader Joe's has to go into work every day. And it's like, that it's mainstream. It used to be a novelty. It was a novelty market, and now it's a mainstream market. All right, Sonny, do you have any more questions for Mr. Cranston?
One more,
All
or
right.
1.5.
All right.
What do you? I know this is probably like confidential, but are you maybe going to be on Better Call Saul season 5?
Well, season 5 is already produced and out there.
Oh,
but
really?
Season 6.
Season 6. Sorry.
Yeah. The real answer is that I don't know. I love the series. I've been watching it, and I'm in the middle of season 5 right now, and it's really good, and it's its own entity. There has some similar flavors of Breaking Bad, but it is its own show, and they do such a terrific job. And I'm very curious of what's going to happen on season 6 when it's leading up to the point where Breaking Bad started in the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it in a second because I owe Vince Gilligan everything. So if Vince or Peter Gould, the showrunner, called and said, "Would you come on the show?" I'd say, absolutely. Let's make it happen. That has not been the case to date. So, and maybe it won't be, and that's fine too. So it depends, whatever's best for the show and whatever they want to do.
All right, you got a half question left?
It's not really I just wanted. Do you have a favorite line or scene from, like, as Walter White or Heisenberg?
Favorite line or scene? Some of these things came out that I didn't even know, like "I'm the one who knocks," or "I am the danger," or "Say my name," or all those things that came out. But I'll just so you can see.
Slide in the office chair.
I have the
hat
original
and-
hat.
Oh,
Hat and
you have the
sunglasses.
outfit.
It is, yeah. So I stole it from the
Taking
set.
it out. Taken out of
This
the
is,
lucite box.
This is it. So now that's the original Heisenberg hat and his glasses.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, look at that.
Say my name, Sonny. But yeah, it was a good time. I so appreciate it. Sonny, let me ask you a question, can I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, you're 14.
Mm-hmm.
By now, you've started thinking, there are certain things that I'm interested in, and you've got high school right around the corner, and it's like, okay, so what am I thinking I'd like to do for a living when out of high school, out of college, and that sort of thing?
I don't know, something in the entertainment industry, mostly sports. I already started a podcast with some of the other people here. I thought maybe acting. I did drama for a little bit. That was really fun. I thought I was pretty good at it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think also something that like Stephen A. Smith, like a talk show, or like commentating over a basketball game or a football game.
Right.
Is something that I'd want to do.
It combines your knowledge of sports plus your ability to communicate succinctly, as you're doing now. And you have a very good voice. You have a good timbre to your voice.
Thank you.
All right, Sonny, hit the bricks. And thank Mr. Cranston.
Thank you, Mr. Cranston. It was good to meet you. I hope we get to meet some other time.
Good to meet you, Sonny. Take care. I'm sorry you have Adam as a father.
So he's sorry you have me as a father. Yeah. What a week. He just got back from Laguna Seca. We just did a car race at Laguna Seca last weekend, and now he's talking to his idol, Bryan Cranston. It strikes me, I'm trying to think of how a show like Breaking Bad sort of captures a zeitgeist And I think it's through just being that good. And I know maybe you're not going to take all the credit for that, but I'm saying is it about a theme? Is it about a story, or is it just about being that good? Like these days, like, are we at a point now where you can't buy your way into success? You know, when I was a kid, it was like you bought enough commercials, I'd go out and see the movie. Didn't matter if the movie was good or bad. It was the one that was in the local movie house, the El Portal or the Lorena or the Guild. I think there was one called the Guild. But there was whatever. They could take my money. They didn't have to be that good. But I'm thinking now, I don't think you can buy your way into success now. I think it's about the product.
Well, there's several reasons for that. First of all, audiences are far more sophisticated now than they ever have been. And that's because the product has improved greatly. When I was 25 years old, living in New York, I was a series regular on a soap opera for a couple years. And there were 16 soap operas on the air at the time. That was the heyday of it. The production value and the quality of the writing isn't that good. And not necessarily because the people weren't talented, but just they had to churn it out. They had to punch out 60 pages every day. And it was like, wow, it was just an amazing exercise. So you look at, and the production values weren't that good. Now, why are there only 4 soaps left in the world? And those are just barely hanging on because the production value has risen. The expectations for quality has risen. We watch it when we watch it. The demand and the struggle to get eyeballs to watch your show is enormously pressured. That put also with what you're saying, the element of the talent of Vince Gilligan to write a story that strikes a chord with so many people, that here's a teacher who has to have a side job because his son has special needs. That's not right. Not only that, he's going to die of cancer. That's not right. And you know what? He uses his skill as a chemist to make crystal meth become a criminal for the last 2 years of his life. And you know what? As much as they hate to admit it, a lot of people were going, you know what? I'd probably do the same thing. I'd do whatever it took to set my family up. If I was going out, maybe it's a very male thing. You want to have some kind of control of your destiny. And that's the way I looked at it. Like Walter White was just doing that because he controlled his destiny. If Walter White was a mathematician, he would figure out a way to cheat at blackjack and go to Vegas.
Right.
Instead of making crystal meth. It just happened to be what he was good at. So he becomes this accidental criminal. And he realizes on the course of it, oh my God, I'm finally doing something that is well respected. I've never had that before. Ironic that it's illegal, but he's still getting credit for it, for making the purest methamphetamine. So you have all these elements that people are related. They're rooting for the guy who is struggling. They're rooting for the guy who's just trying to do this for his family. And then the hook is that he evolves into a guy who's no longer doing it just for his family. He's doing it for himself. But it's too late to shake and spit the hook.
Speaking of dads who are doing it for their family, I know you and your brother sort of got reacquainted with your dad at was it 22 or he left when you were about 11 or 12. I guess, was he just gone completely for that period of time?
Yeah, we didn't see him for about 10 years.
Physically didn't lay eyes on him for 10 years.
Right.
Is there, I don't know, how much therapy you've been through, but that message of I'm not going to see my 12-year-old, 11-year-old sons for a decade, is there any more negative message that can be sent? I've always kind of felt like if you had a crush on a girl and she would walk up to you and punch you in the stomach, that was still better than her not knowing you were alive, right? And
exactly.
the parents who, parents can be horrible and they can be abusive and they can be verbally abusive and physically abusive. They can do everything, but pretending like your kids aren't alive, I don't know. That's the hardest gut punch ever, right?
It was, and it's taken a long time to get to the point of dealing with my resentment and anger and abandonment issues. And I have no qualms about it. Yes, I've gone to therapy. I still go to therapy, and it's like a process. Now, has that helped me in my acting life? Well, I use it. If you want anger or resentment or rage I can give you that, because I lived it. But I want to compartmentalize it. I want it at work, but I don't want it at home. And I've done really well doing that, if I might say so. It's like, and the only way to survive a long marriage like I have is to be able to know how to do that. But like you, boxing, acting is an outlet for me. It's a physical and emotional, intellectual outlet. I purge when I do it, whether it's on stage or in a movie or series. I give it everything because I need to. I don't know how not to give it all. I have to give it all and spend it and be exhausted afterward, because it's also good for me. It allows me, it gives me an avenue, a venue to be able to get rid of that stuff and have it, be effective.
Is it almost like lactic acid or poison or something that is built up in your muscles, and if you don't purge, it'll just keep accumulating? Does it kind of feel that way?
Everyone needs a physical release. You have to find, is it boxing? Is it running? Is it yoga? Is it, Zumba? Whatever your thing is, you've got to find an outlet so that you can sweat, so that you can purge yourself of toxins and drink water and get rid of that lactic acid.
I'm curious about, I've been very curious lately, just in general, on the subject of self-esteem. And I was interviewing Jay Leno in the studio a few weeks back, and he was sort of explaining he doesn't really have self-esteem, but it's not really a negative. He just goes about his life, and I kind of realized I don't really have self-esteem either. I just go about my life. I don't feel a self-esteem, and not in a, feel sorry for me, boo-hoo, negative way. Just I don't factor myself in to a lot of the situations in life. And I feel like sometimes people focus too much on themselves in this way. And I was thinking to myself, it's hard to have self-esteem when you grow up like I grew up or like you grew up. Some of it is kind of chemical. Some of it is just kind of who you are. There's people that feel really good about themselves for no apparent reason, and there's people that don't, sort of chemically or biologically. But for you, what do you feel about your self-esteem? I mean, have you thought about it? And again, low self-esteem, I'm not saying that's a negative per se. That sometimes can be helpful. But have you ever given that subject consideration?
I think self-reflection is important. When I used to, that working class sensibility is ingrained in us. And when I was on Malcolm in the Middle, and I would meet fans, and they would say, "I've never met a TV star before," and I would, "Oh no, I'm just a working actor. No." And I would spend all this energy trying to deny what they wanted to call me, and I got in the way. It did several things. It wasn't true, because apparently I was. But secondly, by denying someone's statement of "you're a star," it forces them to double down and say, "No, yes, you are."
Right.
So the communication gets a little tougher, and it's like, no, really, yes, you are. No, yeah. And I finally realized, what am I pushing against? I'm like Sisyphus trying to get the rock up the hill. Why don't I just say, "Oh, thank you," and it's over.
Yeah,
So for you to recognize your talent and where you've come and how far you've gone and what you've created is not necessarily self-esteem as it is recognition of, oh yeah, you're a star, you have notoriety, and you have financial security, and those are good things. And just say thank you and move on.
I always sort of looked at it as when people would come up and say hi at the airport or something like that. I just thought, if you're going to be on MTV every night for an hour, this is what people are going to do. So they're kind of saying hi to the person they see on TV every night. You don't have to talk them out of it. It's just the way our society works. You know, you don't have to run for it. You don't have to run toward it or away from it. If you're going to be on TV for an hour every night, then people, X amount of society will recognize you walking through LAX, and a certain percentage of them will say something. And
yes, but I will seek privacy as often as I possibly can. So I will wear a hat and keep my head down. And I usually, when I'm with my family, I'll go into a restaurant when things are normal, and I'll take the seat that's facing the wall, because chances are we will be able to have a more normal experience at dinner than if I'm recognized and people come up. Then it changes. It just changes the energy around, and I don't want to do that. I want to compartmentalize when I'm working, what I'm working on, and when I'm free and home and spend my time with my wife, my daughter, and friends and things like that. So, like right now, on the promotional tour for the one and only Ivan, it's my work mode. I know what I'm doing, and I'll go out there and I'll work as much as I possibly can to support something, a film in this case, that I really love, and I want people to see. And when it's over, I step back and I become reclusive, and I don't want to be in the limelight. I don't want to be on shows. So, I mean, I listen to your podcast. I'll listen to the podcast, but I won't listen to this podcast, because I've done it, and I don't want to hear myself. I want to hear someone. I want to hear someone who I don't know that much and see what their life is like.
Well, Tony Gonzalez is coming in the studio. No, this is stupid. Last question, Bryan. Writing and creating. How much of that? How big a part of your life is that right now? And what's the process or the protocol, or how does it work? Because I know a lot about a lot of people, but I never really know how much writing they're doing or creating they're doing.
I write a lot. I wrote a book a couple years ago, a memoir of short stories, and I really had a great time doing that. I might want to write another one or attempt to do a novel or something, or a play. I like to do things to test myself to see if I'm any good at it, and I may not be, but I like to try to see if I am, and if I enjoyed the experience. And I enjoyed writing this book. I've written several episodes of television, mostly my own, that I created for. There was a series called Dangerous Book for Boys that I wrote on, and I created the show. And there was a series called Sneaky Pete that I wrote on and created that show as well. So I'm interested in not only writing for other characters, but for myself. Or I love to produce, because it's then I get to support the writer, your vision. Let us see how I can pave the way for that writer to find their voice. And I think it's pretty exciting, but it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to write and produce and act and direct. And it's like, at some point, I think, I might be like Dick Shawn doing stand-up comedy, and all of a sudden he falls flat on his face and dies on stage. And everybody thought he was doing a routine. It's like, no, wait, don't go out there. Don't go out there. He's doing something.
Right. I think.
No, he's not.
Coming full circle, Dick Shawn, was he in Mad World, or is that Dick? Not Dick Ray.
Gaudier?
No, see, I'll look at my producer, Chris. Was Dick Shawn?
Yeah, it's Dick Shawn.
Dick Shawn was this big, funny, strapping kind of dude who was in the Mad world. Who, yes, I think maybe was he in San Diego when he dropped dead out on stage, or I think that Albert Brooks and Bob Einstein, I think, and Super Dave Osborne, I think their dad was a comedian or performer who died up on stage
no kidding.
Well, I think. Yeah, San Diego was Dick Shawn, right? Can you figure out, I love the computer, the dad, Super Dave's, Albert Brooks' dad, and I was at the.
It is funny. I think I remember hearing the story of Carl Reiner going on Johnny Carson's show and saying the smartest kid I know is a kid named Albert Einstein.
Oh, really? Who was Albert Brooks?
Albert Brooks.
Yeah. So Harry Einstein died from a heart attack in '58 during a roast in honor of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
So died on stage on the dais in a Lucy roast.
Is is there more of a comedian trying to get more attention? It's just like, it's like, wow. All right, you win. You win.
You get the most. In a weird way, maybe we should all go up on stage telling a joke. The movie, I should tell everyone one more time, the one and only Ivan. It's a very touching movie and a very good movie, and it premieres on Disney Plus Friday, August 21st. And also, you can shoot Bryan a tweet or an Instagram at Bryan Cranston as well. And let's not forget the Mezcal brand tequila. Is it Mezcal tequila or is it just Mezcal?
Mezcal.
Dos Hombres. You can. Where can you get Dos Hombres?
Man, you can get it almost there. You can get it through Drizzly, and they'll send it right to your house, or Total Wine and Spirits, or Bevmo. We're all over the place. We're at Gelston's and Safeways, and we're doing really well. It's a beautiful juice. And some night we should have a toast. We'll have some Mangria and some Dos Hombres.
Well, you got to be careful. I know where you live, so I might just show up there and have a little toast. And you can give me some of those magic platelets you have. Bryan, always a thrill, always a treat. One of the good ones, Bryan Cranston. Thanks so much for joining us, Bryan.
Thanks, Adam. Good to talk to you, man.
We'll talk soon. All right, let me hit LifeLock here. Fraudsters are sending messages through the social media, emails, a Cash App scam. It's all there. The messages offer free money via the app. Help during this difficult time. It's so sad that these people are trying to take advantage of folks during this pandemic. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day, we put our info at risk on the internet. You can miss certain identity threats if you're just monitoring your credit alone. You need LifeLock. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats, like your social security number for sale on the dark web. You have access to dedicated restoration specialists, and they'll be right on your case if you become a victim. They're the best. They're LifeLock, right, Dawson?
Known to prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. LifeLock can see threats you might miss on your own. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year by using promo code Adam. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code Adam for 25% off.
All right. Well, you can go to AdamCarolla.com, find out the live shows. Possibly. I think Tempe Improv, September 18th and 19th is still on, so you can get some tickets to that. You can check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Adam Carolla if you like. I'm your emotional support animal. My book is available on Amazon, and you can bookmark us and click through and leave a review. I'll read it. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Gina and Bald and Bryan Cranston saying mahalo.